experts and doctors, and that
They get guidance from them?
that they can get guidance from them, and it should be uniform for Nassau County. That's the guidance that we did receive. Also, no one's advocating any
When you're
role or
requesting,
authority, as you heard now for a while tonight, that we have been, we take our roles very seriously, so that's just.
when you're saying you're requesting for Nassau County to tell us what we should do
Requesting
in
local
Merrick.
control.
What?
Local control.
Right, local control should be here in Merrick. This is the locality.
Thank you. Laura Feldman?
Hello. So I'm new to the district.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have a four-year-old and a 10-month-old. And so I don't know everything that you guys did last year. It sounds like you did a really great job. I also just want to say that all the parents here, whether you agree with me or not, I know we're all just trying to do the best for our kids. So I can appreciate that. I am a professor at a local university as well as a healthcare professional. So I have seen how this virus disrupts everything. I've seen how it makes it harder on teachers, how it makes it harder on students, and the mental toll that this can take. All I can say is that this virus is real, and it's mutating, and it is affecting children more. And even if it's not affecting children as much, they can still transmit it to adults. And it's going to cause a lot of anxiety when these children have their parents in the hospital. I've had students of my own who are 18 and 19 be affected by this virus in a very severe way. Healthy, otherwise, nothing like, I've had patients in the hospital die who are in their 30s and 40s, and you know what? If they didn't die, they end up being admitted again for something else, and then again for something else. So I don't have any groundbreaking point to say other than I just want to advocate for the realness and the seriousness of this virus, and any steps that we can do to try to mitigate that is going to be really important and appreciated. So I just want to state that I don't have anything else that's groundbreaking. I just wanted to make that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
to the district.
Yes, welcome.
Gabrielle Eskin?
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
I have never been to a board meeting before, but I wanted to.
Welcome.
Thanks,
It's a great night.
Don't stop coming.
So I wish that the board would treat our kids and the parents' rights like they're your own kids, because no one knows what's better for my kid than me. And
I will tell you, as a parent, I do advocate with our other board members here.
but
So
for some third party to say what's best for my kid's health, they don't know what's best for my kid's health. They don't know my kid. He's a number, he's a name on a page. It's not personal. And I think for everybody here, it's personal. So I just had a couple of suggestions. First of all, I don't think a letter is enough. I think it needs to be a whole campaign. You need to bombard these people until they don't. If you write a letter, they're gonna put it in a file with every other letter. They'll send you back a template response, and that's gonna be the end of it. If they hear from people all day, every day, complaining and making a big deal of it, then they have no choice but to treat it as a big deal. So I think that maybe you should send out that survey again. If the majority of people feel that masks should be optional, there's nothing wrong with postponing this campaign for a week, sending out the survey again in an effort to get more responses to show that even more people want masks optional. And the masks don't work anyway. Like, they say it on the box. No, but
we're following the law. That's what we have our.
No, I'm just saying, but if everyone's pretending this is about kids' health, then make the point that how is it about the health? Because the masks aren't protecting them anyway. And of course, social emotional development is as big of a part of elementary education as actually the academics. And this isn't good for any kid's emotional well-being. I mean, there's masks covering people's face. Have the little kids understand. And part of learning how to interact with other people is seeing their facial expressions and understanding what's going on behind the words. And when your mouth is being covered and there's a block between you, it presents a real problem with giving them an equitable education in terms of their social and emotional well-being. So I think that all those points should be stressed in a campaign to Albany.
Yes.
Do we have any other public we're going over the time, but it's important, so any other public comments? If you have any, just want to come out and fill out a card, or fill out a card after you speak? I need a card. I don't know where they went. I don't know where they went. Yeah, they're right there. Or anyone else, come on down.
You want me to give it to you now?
Yeah, just
Thank you.
thank you. Hi, Merrick.
I don't know if it's a question that I can ask you, or if it's something that maybe I should
Shoot.
direct towards the principal of the building. I'm just wondering about what is going to be the protocol in the classrooms pertaining to snack time.
Yes, for everything.
I just want to say that my daughter would come home and tell me that she couldn't eat her snack because she sat in the third row. So because she sat in a different row, because I had one row at a time snack. And that just baffles my mind. And it's like, why? She's not allowed to eat her snack, and she's 8 years old.
Well, that's very upsetting because there was never a child should never not have a snack.
No,
An adult should never have a snack, not have a snack either personally. But last year when the guidelines changed and the mandates changed, we wanted the children to be able to eat their snack in the classroom once the partitions came down. And the only way to give the appropriate distance that we were mandated to give, it was every other row. It was not, you have snack on Monday and you have snack on Tuesday. I can assure you of that.
and that's not what I'm saying, but she's sitting here waiting. She's
Right.
only in the third row, and the first row eats their snack, then the second row eats their snack.
No, I will tell you, I met with the principals today, and we are going to start out with odd number rows. It's not one row at a time. There's an activity that's given to the students, and the even rows may work on it for 8 to 10 minutes, while the odd rows eat their snack, and then we swap it, and then we were going to just talk about that over the next week. Remember, we have a very scattered schedule over the next couple of weeks too.
Yes, no, I understand.
So we're trying to day by day, minute by minute,
I'm right there with you.
yeah, take a look at it. And that's where it really emerged from. And we really have been told, well, we have been told that in the classrooms, it's 3 feet of distance with masks on, except if the children are eating or drinking.
So isn't there another way that we can accommodate them? Like I have 19 students, and I was told the same thing today, which, by the way, I think is the most ridiculous thing I've ever
What we are doing,
So I am scattering my kids' contest.
well, we're moving, I will tell you what we did do in the spring was move the children to the larger locations. Our principals adjusted snack times so that children could go into the cafeterias for snack when they're not being used for lunch. It is September, so Mr. Carter's team is putting tables outside as well, and we are trying to use larger locations. So that is actually, it's ironic because that is a very big conversation that we were engaging in today, so that children could possibly leave the classroom, like you said, do different things, maybe go to the library because the library is not always used, and we do have larger tables in the library. So we are trying very hard to do better than what we did last year when it came to the every other row. And I'm so sorry that your daughter did not have snack.
And I
Very
just,
upset
another
by
thing
that.
that I just thought of, maybe it would be a great thing to take some data on seeing how many children actually contract COVID by eating, let's say a 15-minute time.
But the good news is children are moving for specials, and they are going to art, they are going to music, they're going to phys ed, they're going to the library, they're going to the cafeterias, and that will all come out once the board discusses the reopening plan. I don't want to steal the thunder, but I'd like to believe that we have a lot of normalcy that we are going back to, and I know how the with the masks, but they're getting to do things that they couldn't do last year, and we're trying really hard to put those things
Yes.
all back in
I'm
place.
grateful for those things.
Right, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Teresa.
The live feed has been cut.
They're fixing it right now. Thank you. Teresa.
Hi. First, I just want to say, I'm super proud to say I've been married. You guys did a fantastic job last year. My kids are in school this year. Now, this year, I hear from a lot of parents, the same thing that I'm feeling, is where's the fight? We want to fight for our kids to have the option not to. Like you were saying before, campaign. What we want to be at the forefront. I see Massapequa and all these other districts when you see it coming out first saying, we don't want this, we want parent choice. I want to see that from us. We're here. We're willing to fight. We're backing you guys. And we just want to give us direction. Tell us how we help you fight when we want to
Like
fight.
I said a half an hour ago, contact your senators,
We're
contact
doing
your
all of
senators.
that.
I'm telling you that.
We want to
like,
North
just
America,
wait,
right?
so let me explain, please. As our attorney said, we can't make laws. We're going to advocate. We do advocate, but we need you to advocate to the lawmakers. We cannot make the laws here. We can do our best, and I'm sorry, writing a letter first is the first thing you have to. You have to go on a letter. You have to document it. As an attorney, all the attorneys here and parents should understand that. So I think that's not a decision that we took lightly either. Other districts are not writing letters. They're not advocating local control. We are.
I understand that, I do, I understand that, I know that we gotta do this process, but it'd be nice to have a rally, like something that gets us on the forefront of this and showing New York what we want. And we have to be more aggressive.
Frank?
Hi, good evening. My name is Frank Polizzi. I grew up in the district. I went to Camp Avenue.
Can you give me I'm sorry. Okay, so if anyone is talking to anyone that's trying to get on live feed, you have to just have them go on the link again and reload it. It's working now. Sorry for interrupting, Frank. Go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, I grew up in the district. I went to Camp Avenue. I'd say my children go there now also. And I just do want to acknowledge that last year was very good. It's actually all state school because I have friends in other states and places where it was a disaster. So I'm glad they were in. That being said, something came up recently, just in the last couple of days, that I just want to make the board aware of that. I don't know, potentially the state could do something the same for the schools, but I work close to the courts, and New York State courts came out with a mandate now saying that if any of their employees are not vaccinated by September 27th, that they will deem them unfit for work. So that means they're out. I don't know if they're going to go sick, no pay stats. I have no idea what they're going to do. But it's a slippery slope. It's kind of scary because the unions are trying to handle it now, and I think it can happen to any civil service or state job. But if it affects the schools, what can happen? Like, what if the state says we want the children to be tested, and if they don't, they can't go to school?
The students, you're talking about students?
Yes, yeah, like that.
Again, yeah, it's much more discussion right now with respect to staff, right? Because, here we're in an elementary district, you can't even vaccinate students under the age of 12. So the debate is more along with respect to the employee situation and private sector. You can pass a mandate that you have to be vaccinated in order to be employed in the private firm, and that's that. The public sector is not as simple. And as you mentioned, there's unions, there's employment being changed and the like. So everyone's always talks about what happened in the city when Mayor de Blasio made that declaration. You have New York City Council making changing laws with respect to the city of New York. So that's something that we're gonna see where that goes, if it goes anywhere, and then we're gonna have to address it when it does occur. But it's much more complicated in the public sector than it is in the private sector.
Thank you, Frank. Does anyone else have anyone who wants to submit a public comment tonight? All right, make sure everyone has the opportunity to speak. Just want to say thank you for, we might have differences of opinion, but I respect all of you for coming here tonight. And again, our opinions are different from sometimes the action that we have to take, so I just ask you to please consider that. And I, welcome, everyone coming here to our next meeting next month. And again, you don't have to wait. If you have email us questions. We call Dr. Siniak, Joanne, which they always are in constant communication with all the board members. So again, thank you. We're going to move on to the business tonight. We're going to go a little bit out of order because of 5A is a reopening plan, and we're going to discuss that. So I am going to ask a motion just to approve the rest of the agenda, 5B through 5JJ.
Can we pull out O and T, please?
So which one is
O and T. And we're pulling out A, right?
Yeah, I'm doing A. So
Yeah, O and T, it's one class.
okay, so we can have a motion to, I'm sorry.
Then S, and then Y through double.
Sorry. Why don't we just do a motion right now for 5B through 5N? Get a motion to 5B, 5N.
Okay.
Motion by Rob Crowley, second by Tracy Miller, all in favor. Unanimously passed. Okay. So why don't we move on to 5O? Board of Education approves to increase the transportation contract from $23,000 to $45,300 with V Transport to provide summer 2021 transportation to our ask Dr. Siniak to explain that before we have discussion on the motion.
We needed another bus for the summer program for our special education students.
To cover the cost of
Yes, to cover the cost of the summer.
Ask for a motion first.
Motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Second?
Second.
All right, Steve, all in favor?
Aye.
I just asked 5P through 5Q. Is there anyone?
No, I want T.
2T. If I throw it down to S.
I said.
Okay, so 5P through 5R. Give a motion. By Rob Crowley, second by Tracy, all in favor? All right, and now we're gonna go to S. The Board of Education approved the 2021-2022 initial AS7 contract, services provided by Nassau Boats in the amount of $1,757,763.56. And again, I'm gonna ask Dr. Siniak just to explain that, please.
Those are all the services that we anticipate through Nassau BOCES, so it's budgeted for and it's anticipated. The AS7 contract includes a lot of our technology, services for data reporting to New York State, and that is eatable and most likely comes back about 70 cents on every dollar. When we get the aid back, and we will not get that aid back until October of 2022, and pushing services for BOCES, especially in a smaller district, we don't always need full-time people to do specific services, but a lot of the services through there are mandated, and school districts must be able to provide certain services through data warehouse and uploading our grants and all of our applications, et cetera.
Have a motion to approve 5S. Sorry.
No, I have a couple of questions.
Well, I'm gonna ask the motion, I'm gonna do a discussion. The motion.
Motion.
Second by Tracy, and discussion on the motion.
Okay, so looking at that in the board docs, more than 20% had to do with related services. It was 39,000 and change. Jerusalem Avenue was 84,600 and change. Building level capacity, 120,000. Then you added a learning tech project planning, another 164,000. So again, this is just the initial part, the initial money that's given to BOCES. So.
Well, we don't give it to them until we utilize the service. We don't pay until the service is rendered. And what we do when we do each budget is we go through each year and we take a look at if there were services that we did not utilize that we may have contracted for without having to pay for, then we remove those, and that would be why this would be less than possibly what was used last year.
But then could we get a breakdown of, say, the related services at 139,414, the Jerusalem Avenue line item, 84,000? Could we get a breakdown? That it's a lot of money, and
Which is a lot, the 800,000 or the 100 and something thousand?
it's all a lot of money.
Okay, I just didn't know which one. On the AS7, Tom?
Yeah, just for the reference, those related services, all special ed services. For the district, for students that are outside.
They're at a
Not
district.
being taught here in our district, that they go out there, so it's related services can be anywhere from occupational therapy, physical therapy, hearing,
Speech, OT,
speech,
could right?
things along those lines. Just want to break down.
You know, this, yeah, in the future, could we get that breakdown so that when I'm going line by line and I'm questioning where all this money is being spent? Is that possible?
Yeah, I believe so, to a point, yeah. We get invoiced each month by BOCES that breaks down exactly what these services are.
Okay, just all in favor? Any abstentions or opposition? Mary? Yeah, I'm gonna oppose. Okay, so Mary, you're opposing. Okay, so join, that motion carries. Sorry, FT? Yep. The Board of Education authorizes the North American Union Free School District the power to authorize the issuance of tax anticipation notes and revenue anticipation notes for the 2021-2022 school year. That's, yeah.
I could just start with that we've already been notified that we may not be collecting all of our tax money, as per the calendar that was given to us originally, as well as we have not received aid yet, that we're waiting on, and we don't want to be put in a situation where we don't have a cash flow to keep the district operating. Tom, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, monthly,
Just explain why we're not collecting tax money.
so we don't collect.
And why
We
we
don't
don't have a
collect.
state.
What
Why
happens,
do we listen to the state, we don't have a state?
first of all, the taxes. Taxes is scheduled whenever the Nassau County
County.
Assessor's Office actually collects them and then sends them to us. What happens is, each year, it doesn't start until around late October, November. And right now, what's covering all the expenses of the district is whatever cash we have on account in reserves. We're also still waiting for the CARES Act money that we haven't received yet. So that's still another almost close to $1 million that we're waiting to receive. If we receive that a lot earlier, then I won't need to. What happens is I monitor this monthly, throughout the entire month, but I also send reports to the board monthly about what the cash flow is projected to be, as well as what it is current to the actuals. At this pace, if we were to receive it as it's supposed to, we're probably going to need money for late October, early November to cover the expenses until we receive the taxes. Once we receive the taxes, then we're fine for the rest of the school year.
Now, these short-term notes we're issuing,
Yes, the short-term notes.
is that, could we be more beneficial to get a line of credit or something from a bank?
It's something that they haven't done for districts. We looked into it last year, especially last year, we had looked into that specifically because the district only needed it for about a month or two. So I was hoping that we didn't have to do that and that they would just issue a line of credit, and the answer was no, legally they were not able to do that for us.
Maybe we can look into that, because that's something we can open and we can draw on it as we need.
I don't, I'll check with them, also check with the council, but at that time they told us we weren't able to do it that way, we had to do it through a tax anticipation note.
And these notes are short-term, 3 months. What's your short-term definition?
What winds up happening is there's two time periods during the school year that we receive taxes. It's just like you pay your own taxes. You pay once in around November and then again in May, October and May. Each time we're waiting to receive that money. So we also kind of need the money in May also because we dwindled down, so we're still waiting to receive the other half of the taxes we haven't received yet. So at that time in May, each year, we kind of are not short, but we get very close. And typically, for the past few years, we've, as long as possible, for the district not to go out in regard to it. Like each year, like I said, I send the board monthly reports in regard to cash flow, so we have appraised the board the situation we're currently in.
Tom, is this something that we have to do tonight, or can we push it off to September and look into the line of credit?
Yeah, we can wait until September because it's 2 weeks away. Like I said, October is the time frame that I'm gonna.
I just want to get a little more definition on exactly how long the note is out for. What's the interest rate? Are we going back to the state and saying we had to borrow money, or are you reimbursing us for the interest that we paid?
This is not uncommon in all districts around Long Island. We're not.
I'm sure we're not the only ones, yeah.
We're definitely-
Especially post-COVID, with
Maybe
the
it's-
expenses that we incurred last year.
Maybe we could push back on it. Again, what's the rate?
We won't know the rate until we go out for the TAM.
No, typically, what's the rate? What was it last year?
I think it was under 1. It was very, the rates were really good for us.
And we also have very good rating.
That's correct.
Do you wanna
No, that's fine.
start or?
No, I just like to look into the line of credit if you can.
You can look into
I can
that.
look into it.
So we're okay to, so the motion on the table right now for 5T. Motion to approve second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
This question real quick, even though we passed that resolution, doesn't mean that we have to take the tan
No,
or we
he's
can.
gonna look into the
We've passed this
line of
resolution a few times over the past few years since I've been here. Last year was the first year we actually went out for it just because of COVID.
It's just to be prepared in case of cash flow.
credit. You'll look into the line of credit and just.
Correct, I'll do that again.
Analysis. 5U, motion to approve 5U, Board of Education approve the agreement with Educational Data Services Inc. for the 2021-22 school year to provide bid specifications and interactive software for amount not to exceed $2,800. Motion to approve. Motion, a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Also on school supplies.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And just for the record, since it was voted on like that, just to let you know, last year we continued to save approximately $85,000 a year by buying services through this company because the rates that were being charged are less than it would be if we went on any other state contract.
That's great. That's a good point. Thank you. 5B, the Board of Education approves the purchase of a 60-month agreement with Bose 46 Dell Opticut 79V small form factor CPUs. Computers about monitors, 10 Dell 3100, 11 touchscreen Chromebooks with Google Chrome management licensing and video streaming services for district Board of Ed meetings. A motion to approve 5B. Motion by Teresa Harms, seconded by Steve Mello. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. 5W, the Board of Education, as per New York State education law, approves the 2021-2022 school emergency response plans detailed in the mailing, which again we have to do in order to comply with our state mandates. Have a motion. Motion by Tracy Miller, second by Steve. All in favor? Aye. Mary, did you want to vote?
Yeah, I'm Y through double I.
No, I didn't record your vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nice, okay, thanks. All right. 5X, we're getting there. The Board of Education approves the 2021-2022 district-wide safety plan and detail the mailing. And again, this is something that we must do to comply with the New York State mandate. A motion to approve. Motion by Tracy Miller, second. By Corona, all in favor, aye. Motion carries. 5Y, Board of Education approves the North American June 30th, 2021 reserve plan for use of reserves and fund balance for the 2020/2021 school year. I'm going to ask Dr. Smith just to explain that, take a motion and discussion.
We close the books after the end of the school year each year. The auditors come in. They stay with us through the months of July and August. And then as we close out the books, we take a look at our reserves. And in conjunction with the auditors, we create a reserve plan of funding the different reserves. Every reserve has different restrictions. With that being said, the auditors also do a presentation generally at the Board of Education meeting in October. So we plan for that again. And with the COVID expenses, as well as voter approval of the use of capital reserve, we have several resolutions here for the board. And any specific questions, Mr. McDade, are you ready to respond? Any questions about the plan?
The plan itself, and also after the board meeting, that will be up tomorrow.
On our website?
On the website.
And that is something that we must legally do.
Legally, we must do it like Cindy had said. It's basically spells out where all the money is in the district. Where's the money? It shows you exactly where it is, where the reserves are, and how each of the reserves are set up, how we monitor it through each year, how we spend it through the year, and how we try to replenish it as much as possible.
A motion to approve 5Y. Motion by Mary, second by Mr. Corona. Any discussion? Thank you for explanation. All in favor, aye. Motion carries. 5Z, Board of Education authorizes a transfer of $522,907.67 to fund balance of the general fund from the retirement contribution reserve as of June 30th, 2021, and an answer, just an explanation of that.
We do Z, my concern, Z through double I are pretty similar, so could we
Sure.
in essence time?
Sure. Right. You want to express your concerns, Mary, then we'll.
Yes, well, I know this has to do with the petition, which I called personally stealing from Peter to pay Paul. That's what I was sort of calling last year. So, C through I, essentially Tom has to do with that Proposition 2 that we voted on last year.
Okay, just to start everything off, for clarification for everybody here listening at home, resolution C through double I are all reserve related, which are all specifically detailed in the reserve plan, word for word, explaining exactly what each and everything is. As for your question in regard to the voter approved proposition last year, which was approved, I think, by 60%, that is taking money from the capital reserve, which is part of this, the 1.1 million, and spreading it out over the TRS reserve, which is the Teacher Retirement System Reserve, the Employee Retirement System Reserve, as well as the EBLR Reserve, which is the Employee Benefits Reserve. One of the things that's very important to know is that with that proposition last year, we had discussed that the finances are going, it was very important to take the money from the capital reserve, which wasn't being utilized at that time, to fund the other reserves that are being used to fund the budget. I had ran a projection, you'll see in the reserve plan, if you take out what was actually done, you take out those reserves, say that proposition failed last year, and then you take all the allocations that we had in the budget for this year, we would not have enough money to fund the budget for the 22-23 school year had we not done that. By doing this resolution, we are able to have enough money in each of those reserves to be able to continue to fund the budget. So it actually worked out exactly like we said it would happen if, by doing the proposition if I passed. So had it not, we would have been a little bit of an issue trying to fund the budget next year. So by doing this, once again, assuming we're not able to put anything back next year, we're able to at least again fund the budget through the reserves. That's that in a nutshell. And all the other ones that I didn't discuss, are once again detailed in the reserve plan, and a lot of them are basically just the actual expenses that were actually used, dollar for dollar, like we say all the time, dollar for dollar as for the ERS, employment, all those things last year.
I thank you, Tom, I appreciate the explanation. You know, I don't agree with taking money out of the capital portion of the budget to do this, but the voters approved it, and it is what it is. So
I'm going to revise the motion, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve 5Z through 5J. So that's a motion to approve.
Second.
First, Mr.
I was gonna say, I had a motion on that motion.
I revised it, okay, second.
It's Z through double I.
Z through double J, like double J. Okay, thank you, Joe. Sorry. All in favor? All right, so that passes.
I'm opposed, I'm opposed
On all.
on Z, which I thought we were going, Z through double I, I'm opposed on Z through double I.
Okay. Okay, I got it. And I have a motion to approve the personnel actions report as detailed in mailing listed as under 6A. Motion to approve, by Tracy Miller, second by Patty.
Megan, did you go back to 5A?
No, we're gonna do that, we should get everything else done because I anticipate, so I'm gonna take our time with that, sorry. I should have said that, sorry. A motion to approve 7A and 7B. Moved by Kathy, second by Tracy, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. And before we, there's nothing else to vote on, right? Joanne, right, nothing else? So we're gonna go back to 5A. Okay, great. I'm gonna just revise the motion, so it's not as written as the agenda. So let me read the new motion, resolution. And I'll ask for a motion and a second, and then we're gonna have discussion of Dr. Sinian presented to the board. 5A through 5A, Joanne, you can just make sure that's revised. Okay, Board of Education approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the COVID-19 prevention procedures agreed by the superintendent of schools. Be it further resolved that the COVID-19 prevention procedures created and implemented by the superintendent of schools in connection with the plan for the reopening of the schools for the 2021-2022 school year may be modified by the superintendent with board approval, period. Be it further resolved that the COVID-19 prevention procedures and any modifications thereto will be posted on the school district's website. So I'd like a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Stephenell, and now if we can have discussion on the motion, Dr. Sinic, you can just summarize our reopening prayer.
Last year, our reopening plan was much thicker than this. There were many mandates and basically checklists that we had to follow. This year, most districts, in speaking for the last 4 weeks, we put together highlights of our protocols and our procedures. We did have our reopening committee meeting, and if you open the plan, and this will be posted to the website tomorrow. The members of the task force are listed. Then it goes into general guidelines. All of our students will be in school in person. And if there are any people, children who are at risk and need specific procedures, and we have to provide reasonable accommodations in school, you just need to contact us for further discussion and evaluation of that. There will be no remote teaching provided at this time because our students will be in person. If there's a medical condition, we do have home instruction. Many parents are choosing to homeschool their children as well. If we were to move, just to address the question earlier, to a mask optional, there are districts that are talking about live streaming. We have not crossed that bridge yet, but that is something that districts are looking into as well. So we're always planning for the if, whens, and buts of the future and what that will look like in collaboration with the unions if we move forward in a different direction. Communication and community engagement is a huge category. We will continue to communicate via email, the district website, phone calls, and text messages. We take a lot of pride in being extremely responsive. There is never an email that I have not responded to through this entire pandemic. And through the heart of the pandemic, I did not respond via email. I called about 99% of the parents who did email me because I felt that the conversations were more valuable and more information was received that way. And I will continue with that. In addition, I will continue to handle every single COVID case. I handled every COVID case personally with the support of my staff last year. I was the person who spoke to the Department of Health, and I was the one who made the final determinations in collaboration with the Department of Health. I will do that again this year because you don't want different people handling the situations and who doesn't know all of the information. As our survey shows, we had excellent feedback on our communication, so we will look to expand upon that and maintain that. School closures, obviously we prepare for a full school closure. Our students are one-to-one with our Chromebooks, our devices, and we have our teachers work with our students to be able to transition to remote if that situation does arise, as it had many times for classes last year. We're fully confident in that transition. We can almost say we're experts at it at this time. Confirmed cases is another category. We will continue. We are required to report positive cases to the Nassau County Department of Health, who enforces the isolation and quarantine guidelines. Consistent with these guidelines, and this is extremely important, students in the K-12 indoor classroom who are at least 3 feet of an infected student with masking are excluded from the definition of close contact and not required to quarantine. That keeps our students in school. Similarly, fully vaccinated persons who have come into contact with someone who is suspected or confirmed COVID-19 will not have to quarantine, but should be tested 3 to 5 days after exposure to ensure that COVID-19 has not been contracted. This exception does not apply to teachers, staff, or other adults who are not vaccinated. We will continue to notify families of potential exposure, so they may monitor for symptoms closely of their children for 14 days. Anyone who exhibits symptoms should remain home and seek testing. Our school nurses are truly amazing. They will continue with their role of evaluating our students and working with our parents if a child comes in and exhibits symptoms, or a staff member as well. Once a student or an employee is excluded from school environment, they may return if they satisfy the recommendations of the CDC, and the return is coordinated with the local health department. Our health and hygiene procedures will continue as they did last year. If you are sick, please stay home. We said that a lot during the flu season a couple of years ago, and we continue to say that, not only to our students, but to our staff as well. We will continue training our staff. Our district nurses will work with our staff very closely to be able to recognize symptoms and speak with their parents of their students in their class. Face coverings and vaccination status for staff. I think we covered that pretty much. Masks are mandated for students and staffs in schools throughout New York. Universal masking for anyone entering schools. Therefore, masks will be worn by all students and adults while indoors, but not required outdoors. This is irrespective of vaccination status and includes after-school activities, such as indoor games, clubs, events, performances, etc. One of the key points of this, which is a positive, it will result in minimal quarantining of our students and our faculty and staff. Therefore, we're proud to say we will continue to provide a quality in-person educational experience that is free from disruptions. As for the proof of vaccine or weekly test requirement for staff, that's all that's been mentioned. We're waiting for further guidance from the governor. Physical distancing, as I said earlier, our students will travel to art and music rooms as well as the library and gym for special area instruction. We're very excited about that. Students will maintain a minimum of 3 feet of physical distance while inside, except while students are playing instruments and singing. As recommended by CDC, we have put 6 feet of distance in these environments. That did mean some changes in locations within the buildings, but we're able to do that. And students will be going back to the cafeterias for lunch, so we're also very excited about that. And at recess, our students will be able to mix outside. We will have our signage throughout the buildings. Any child who takes a bus, face coverings must be worn before entering the bus. Siblings must sit together. Buses will be loaded front to back, etc. Arrival and dismissal procedures have been communicated by our principals. We will use various locations as we did last year. Actually, the principals thought it was an efficient way to bring children in school as opposed to one entrance, and we are continuing with that. Visitors, we will be limiting to start the school year our schools with visitors. This is ever changing, and the reopening plan, I believe, is a fluid document based on anything that is given to us in guidance, but we are going to open with limiting visitors. That please call the schools ahead of time, ask for an appointment. Only essential visitors, which includes our parents and our guardians, will be permitted into the school buildings. Pre-scheduled meetings that cannot be handled virtually is an essential visit. We are going to start, my recommendation is to start September and consistently evaluate where we are. Drop-off procedures, if you have to drop off medication, please coordinate that with the nurse's office. Forgotten lunches, the principals are sending out information about that. All rooms, we're continuing with our sanitizing and cleaning, signage for hand washing. Alternative spaces will be used to accommodate larger instructional groups if deemed necessary. We're moving our band students here at Fayette into a bigger room. Physical education, we're going to encourage activities that allow for more distancing. Large group assemblies and guest speakers and field trips we're doing on a case-by-case basis. We're taking everything one step at a time. Traffic patterns, obviously we're going to review those to promote distancing in the hallways. The building cleaning will continue each evening. Training and cleaning and disinfection will continue. Our office spaces, we discourage our workers on a normal day from using other workers' phones, desks, offices, etc. We have our dispensers, our disinfecting wipes available. And we're going to hold meetings in open, well-ventilated spaces. We put 6 feet between people. We went above and beyond. Outdoor air will be increased where possible. Our safety drills will continue. Obviously, in an emergency, it's more important to get the children outside or away from the threat as opposed to distancing them. And we know that. And I know that sounds silly, but we need to say that. Evacuation or lockdown, if it is a true situation, that becomes the priority. So that's a quick little overview.
Thank you. Any discussion, any questions by the board? Dr. Siniak?
I have a couple.
Okay.
This is page 8 on the face covering. And I believe the Department of Health and the mandate had a guidance in there for medical reasons for not wearing a face covering. Is it possible we can insert that in here?
Put it, I think, yes, absolutely.
And then also have it on there where if you are not wearing a mask, you are subject to the contact tracing, as well as just so that they're aware of it.
I'll fix it in the morning before it goes on the website.
Okay, and then the last paragraph, furthermore from the governor, that's gonna be stricken.
Yeah, because I was waiting on additional, we got nothing, so I'll take it out for now.
We haven't even know what percent of the staff are vaccinated.
Well, it's interesting because when that did come out, obviously there was a flutter of questions, and our team called our union presidents, and we told them what was said. We said, listen, how do you want to handle this? And they were actually going to take a look at if people would voluntarily share if they're vaccinated or not. And then we were just waiting at that point for further guidance, which we have not received. So at this point, all of the districts are basically saying, we're just, we're in limbo right now with that. But it's a violation of what they're saying is a violation of HIPAA laws to ask those kinds of questions.
Okay. And then just the last thing, on one of the other prior comments on homeschooling. How many number of kids are being homeschooled?
I think the homeschooling comes through my office. We're up to, with siblings included, probably about a dozen.
Do we provide the homeschooling for them?
No, when home instruction, we provide homeschooling is when a parent decides to provide the education for their children themselves. And they must submit a plan to my office that I must then compare to New York State curriculum standards and expectations. And then they also have to submit quarterly the progress of the children, and that all runs through me in my office.
And just the last thing, just I guess we should try to get more outside time for classes, for kids to get outside as much as possible.
Do you want that in here somewhere? I could put it under the general guidelines if you'd like.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment, but I'm not really sure if it's appropriate here. It might be under new business. Last year, there was some talk about a BOCES, remote instruction. So, because if you're talking about kids who can't come to school, like the lady who had spoken, wasn't that something that was considered for kids who couldn't come? I don't know if it's appropriate here or.
No, it's information. NASA BOCES, and I think I shared that with the board, was looking at running a program themselves, but it would have no connection to the home district. Our teachers would not teach it. And it would be fully virtual through NASA or BOCES. There was a price tag on it of $10,000 a student. There were no districts, if maybe just a couple, that showed interest in it, and actually NASA BOCES pulled that. Although I do believe that it's being offered through Western Suffolk BOCES, but not Suffolk BOCES. So it really depended on the interest or if that was in the actual area. So right now, they're not offering that. Thank you.
Is that something, I agree, Tracy, and I brought this up before too. Nassau County, every school district in Nassau County spends a ton of money with BOCES, and is there something, if there's a meeting of superintendents, that could be revisited so that there is an option, a virtual option for parents, not that it would be perfect, but there's at least an option for them.
Yeah, a lot of the feedback that we did receive was that parents wanted something that was, run by their own district. And I think that's what Nassau-Coastie said, they were hearing from districts, and that's why they pulled away from that, because it would be totally separate from us. And we are speaking to them on a regular basis, and as the new mandates have come out, Nassau-Coastie is now deciding, what are they even doing, for all of their programs. But it is an ongoing discussion among superintendents and Superintendent Bob Dillon of Nassau-Coastie.
So to Mary's point, maybe you could just bring that up, and then you can bring up at our next board meeting, just, follow up. Because again, things are changing every day, so maybe it's gonna change again, but.
Exactly.
All right, any other questions? So there's a motion on the table, so, all in favor to approve, 5A? Aye. All right, now, so Joanna, if you could just make sure that the resolution is correct. Thank you. All right, so that's all, I believe that's all of our business that requires action tonight. So let's just move to 8, report of the committees. I'd like to just strike Joanne 5B because we could not have a PTA council. Okay. At least 5A, the high school report. Mr. Corona?
Yeah, sure.
President of the high school, if you'd like to give us your report.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so we had,
Congratulations on that.
thank you. We've had 2 meetings. We had a August 4th regularly scheduled meeting. At that time, we received a report from Scott Person, who is our new assistant superintendent, regarding our progress with students in AP exams. And we're happy to report that we have a very positive trend and success and performance in AP exams. We also discussed our new business to revise board policy 1230 in regards to public comment at board meetings. There was a discussion about which individuals should be allowed the floor at board meetings, whether residents or non-residents. We also had an emergency meeting August 26th, where we also approved our opening plan, which did include adhering to the New York State Commissioner of Health's recent mandates, much like we just did here tonight. That's it.
Thank you. 8C, our buildings and grounds report.
So I'm sure all you guys have seen all the cleaning and all the hard work that's gone in this summer. This school in particular was very rough because we had so much going on here this summer. But the team has always persevered, got through it. There wasn't a lot of time from the last day of children being in this building to today. And the guys, they knocked it out of the park. They really did an amazing job. We restored a lot of the grass around the district. As Dr. Seniak mentioned, kids were going out a lot last year just to get fresh air and get some energy out. That torched the grass. Great for the kids, not so good for the grass. But Frank was able to get a lot of grass growing. Everything looks really good. Fields looking green again. And we're actually excited to have the kids back and looking forward to it. I mean, this was a short summer, so it was very trying, but by moving people around to get the emptier buildings done sooner, we could bring staff over here to get this one done in a short amount of time. And again, I owe a debt of gratitude to my staff because they do the impossible every year. So kudos to those guys.
Thank you.
And question, the issue that was over at Old Mill, the glass bottles and the mulch, did you ever address that? Yes, we wrote a PO. Money for it? I'd have to ask Mr. McDade about the insurance side of it. We did cut a PO just to get the process going. We're hoping to be reimbursed by them.
I'm gonna just jump for a second, so I will walk to that, I went over the playground that day, or 2 days later, just to see what was going on in the playground, and I met with Dr. Seniak, and I contacted our legislator, met with him, and Legislator McKevitt also, met with Cindy, Dr. Seniak, to get us funds for new playgrounds as well, to help with that. And then Tom, if you want to talk about the insurance, because I know you were looking at the insurance issue.
Hopefully I'll answer when that fence is gonna come off of the playground at Old Mill.
Fence will come down right when construction starts. They have to dig out all of that contaminated fiber.
I went over it, they had to take it all out.
Yeah.
Massive undertaking.
But I don't want this to be equal, because remember, we had the front playground issue, and that was months and months and months. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that this is not another equal issue.
I hope so as well, but, my last, when we wrote the PO, it was a 6 to 8 week lead time. That was about 3 weeks ago, so I'm hoping in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we can get this resolved. We have to get into their queue. I mean, there's a million projects going on, and we were last minute, and, actually Playground Merrick, the vendor, kind of squeezed us in and kind of pushed us to the front, knowing that, without the playground, I mean, it's not a new thing that nobody ever had before, like some of their new projects. This is something that's gonna be sorely missed, and, they recognize that.
It's ridiculous, you just speak to the insurance,
By the next board meeting, we'll have a final determination regarding the insurance claim. It has been submitted. It looks like we'll probably have to pay the $5,000 deductible and then be reimbursed for everything. But by the next board meeting, we'll have a final determination on that.
Yeah, having met with the nicer folks out on the field, you know, I don't wanna jinx it, but it seemed like it was, gonna happen.
Thanks.
Mr. Carter, so you think by the October board meeting, we'll be in good shape? Hopefully?
I hope so. I really do. I wanna start tomorrow.
Well, you're gonna update us on September, in your September report.
Also, something to keep in mind, if this could happen at any one of our, playgrounds. Other,
And do we don't have cameras right on that playground area, is there any, I know this, I think, you know, so it doesn't happen again? Actually, I went over, there are cameras on the playground, there are cameras, and we talked about putting more lighting up.
Right.
And
It happened over a weekend. We couldn't ascertain when or exactly who did it. So as far as finding someone and having to hold them accountable, we weren't able to do that.
Right, because the cameras don't they don't, hone in that closely, right?
They're not that great at night. You know, it's dark. You see black and white. I wish it was more like CSI, you know, zoom enhanced, and just run it through a database and say, hey, Bobby did it. That's not how it is, unfortunately.
I would. You know, just so that the kids are old mill about that playground for months and months.
One of the other issues is that we can't lock that property.
Yeah, we actually, Mr. Carter and I, we got some estimates for fencing around that area, around Old Mill Road, because we feel that this is a problem that can reoccur. And, even when we do identify the students, we call the police, nothing unfortunately truly happens. And it doesn't fix the problem any faster. And I'm happy to say that the Central High School District does work with us because they're not our students, and they do work with us to now possibly take some school action against students that we are able to, that we may not recognize in the pictures, but when I send up to Mr. Harrington, his principals recognize. And then he has assured me over the last 2 weeks that he will handle it in school as well. So we're hoping that that will also alleviate some of this happening, as well as some fencing. This is quite a process when you go through an insurance company, unfortunately, and you get put in a queue. We'll talk about $39,000 of damage.
Yeah, and to go the other way, like, you know, we use the fiber. We have to stay with the rubber fiber, because if not, we have to excavate deeper, because the wood fiber needs a deeper base to provide the same protection. So that became more expensive. And then the trowel down surface, that rubber surface that can almost be shoveled, it was astronomical. It was in the hundreds of thousands. So it was just something, it was cost prohibitive, because the playground is 20 years old to begin with. You don't want to put brand new $120,000 surface under a 20-year-old playground, or 15.
I hear you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You always do a great job.
Thank you.
Our kids, the kids obviously are so restricted, so that time on the playground is
Absolutely.
just invaluable.
It makes
I
me
don't
crazy
want
that it's
to-
not going to be done for the first day. It really
Yes,
does.
but at least hopefully there's hope that's going to be done in the very near future.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you. Joanna? Yes.
We received 12 communications, 6 were opinion on masking, 3 rescheduling of the board meeting, 1 social media groups pushing masking options, another one using legal counsel to assist fight against state, and the last one, plan of COVID testing on students. And all these emails were responded to.
Thank you. Any unfinished business tonight? New business? All right, wish everyone a good night and good luck on Wednesday, first day of school, and hope You have a nice Labor Day, and then a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.